Okay, so I'm gonna start in about a minute, but today I want to talk about something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but has always interested me, has always fascinated me, has always scared me, and has also recently become something that has inspired me. And I'm gonna be going through this, right? What I want to be talking about during this webinar is death. Okay, death, dying, the end of existence, the end of a lifetime coming to an end. Okay, so obviously this can be a very sensitive topic to a lot of people, but I'm just going to be giving my perspective on this topic and really diving more into the history and human psychology and how how just death, in my eyes, the concept of death and the fact that we die has really been the driving force of humanity when you really put everything down to the nail and get everything away out of the dust and clear the dust. The real general driving force of humanity, the people who have brought us to where we are today over the mass millions of years of evolution of various civilizations, wars, and so forth, and development, innovations of technology, and overall the globe, right? Death has generally been the driving factor of that, right? And at the end of the day, death is something that is completely unavoidable. It is something that humans have questioned and been trying to grasp since the beginning of time, of wondering really when, and especially in the modern age when we have access to all this information and studies and research and science, we understand that our lifetimes, even if someone, let's just say, lives to 100 years on this earth, is really a speck of dust when you're looking at the overall timeline of the universe, the overall timeline of the creation of Earth, which is billions of years old, right? The overall timeline of the history of civilizations, of humanity, which is thousands of years old. Our lifetimes in this overall timeline of life that just continues to progress is really essentially a snap of a finger. When you're looking at the broad scope, right? Obviously, Obviously, when you're just in tune with your day to day existence, life can seem very long. But I'm talking about when you're really relating it to the broad scope of the universe, to the broad scope of the time the Earth has been around itself as a planet, to the broad scope of humanity in various civilizations through history. Our lifetimes essentially are a snap of a finger, and humans, have always been trying to find ways to conquer death, but have never succeeded, right? We have had huge feats in terms of humanity and civilization, from the development of societies and structure and cities to the technological innovations we have, how the world really works, all the luxuries and privileges and pleasures that we have access to at our fingertips. Man has accomplished a lot through his progression on this earth over the period of years as civilizations have progressed, but has never been able to conquer death, right? So, what I've been really thinking about is that there's two pathways you can take when you really start to come in tune and just think about death, because it is completely unavoidable. So even though people may not like to talk about these kind of things or not like to think about these kind of things, it makes sense from a psychological perspective. You have to understand, like I just explained, through the history of humanity, man has never been able to understand death, the purpose of life, what our existence is for, what are we really supposed to be doing here? Is there a meaning to all of this, right? And that unknown, for so many millennia, that unknown, right? For a human being to really put himself into thinking about that concept, what it does is bring a burst of negative emotions, what we like to call negative emotions, right? So when a person generally starts to think about the concept of death, as we have really such little information about it and what happens during this lifetime, our purpose, what we're supposed to be doing here. Not a single human being through the existence of humanity has known essentially what we're doing on this earth. You know what I mean? Has no fucking clue what we're really supposed to be doing here, what the purpose of all this is. But human beings have still been constantly innovating and developing humanity as a whole when you look at it from obviously thousands of years ago, because of death being the driving factor that you're only on this earth for an extended period of time. So let's do what we can while we are here. But anyways, back to the topic. I was getting a little off topic, right? When most people think about death, you're going to get these feelings of unknown, this feeling of confusion, this feeling of dread, this feeling of sadness, because automatically you're going to think of your family, your loved ones, who you are close to, dying, perishing away, whether it be for natural causes, whether it be for a tragedy, and you will never be able to see this person again, and you have no idea why. We have so many answers to so many questions within our lifetimes, but this is something we've never had an answer to, and honestly, in my opinion, never will. It is something that is completely unavoidable. Obviously, we can have another conversation that if technology continues to develop, you could potentially upload a person's consciousness, you know what I mean? And they can still exist in a different space of their consciousness. But I'm just talking bare bones, the human body, lifetimes and lifetimes in relation to how long your actual human body will last on this earth. Because once your human body's gone, you are essentially gone. This is really just a jacket for us, a jacket for our spirits, a jacket for our minds, and it deteriorates, it breaks down, and once it's gone, you're done, right? Obviously, years from now, if they find a way to upload a person's mind and consciousness and prolong their life somehow, okay, cool. But I'm not talking about that, right? So anyways, a lot of people, when they start to think about death, they're going to automatically go to that negative side of feeling dread, of feeling fear, of feeling sad. And what it can do is really leave you immobilized. Because when you think about death and you think about all the negativity side of it, there's two pathways you can take when you first start to think about the concept of death and start to digest the reality of death. There's two pathways you can take. And this is what's really important. It's extremely critical which pathway you take, because that is going to primarily dictate the sustenance and the progress of your life. And if you're either going to live a fulfilling life with the short time we have here, or if you're going to live a mediocre life and go down the shittier path of how you can potentially lead your existence, right? Majority of human beings do not want to be obese, do not want to be broke. They don't want to feel like shit. They don't want to be sad and depressed. That's not what they want. That's not healthy. That's not what anybody wants. But the majority in masses are going along that path, right? Obviously because of societal pressures and how majority of people get pushed down that path, because that's what makes a lot of money for the people who run the society and world. But I'm not talking about that. What I am talking about is when you start to think of the concept of death and the unavoidable fact that we all will die at some point or another for whatever XYZ reason that you can never predict or really know. You know what I mean? There's two ways you can go, right? And I suggest that we all understand this concept and go the one way I'm going to describe in a second. But usually the majority in masses, especially nowadays in modern societies, where people are even more feeble, where people are even more weak and mentally weak and physically weak, it's very easy to go down the negative path. Death in itself is the reason that humans have always had a faith and created a faith into something potentially greater, whether it be something bigger in the universe scientifically, or whether it be a faith in a potential God for whatever religion you are a part of, or whatever religion explains their version of what comes after death, right? That's where these concepts of like reincarnation come from. That's where these other concepts of like going to heaven come from. But nobody can really confirm any of this. This is just faith that humans have created, but that faith, those concepts were only created because there are no real answers to death. And so for people to potentially cope with this harsh reality that all of our existences come to an end, that's why these faiths were created for the masses to be a part of and give them something to believe in, give them something to hope in, give them something to have faith in that comes after death. When in reality, the cold hard truth is we have no clue what comes after death. We have no clue what our existence is here. We have no clue what we're supposed to be doing here. That is the cold hard, harsh truth. You know what I mean? So anyways, the one negative path you can go when you're thinking about death and discussing death or really starting to get in tune with it is that you're going to feel dread, you're going to feel sadness, you're going to feel the negativity, and you're going to think that our existence is meaningless. What is the point? Everybody dies, our friends die, our family members die, I'm going to die. What's the point of being healthy? What's the point of bringing value and information to myself? What's the point of potentially having this career or having a family one day or reproducing and having children? What's the real point of this when the reality is that our existence is meaningless in a snap of a finger when you're looking at the broad spectrum of the universe and the scope of just humanity itself over thousands of years? What's the point? And when you go down that potential path, you're really going to leave yourself paralyzed and immobilized. And with the time that you have on this earth, you're going to end up living a life of you're going to end up living a life that is not going to bring you any fulfillment. It's not going to bring you any joy. And you're going to deteriorate your mind and body at a much more accelerated pace. And this is what happens to a lot of people, right? But the truth is, the fact that humans die, listen to me, the fact that humans die and are only on this earth for a short period of time is what makes life itself precious. Okay? It's a precious commodity. The fact that there's only a limited supply of life, the fact that it is not infinite, the fact that you only have this selected period of time in whatever era you are born in, the fact that eventually you are guaranteed to perish, all that in itself is exactly what makes life precious, right? And we understand as humans, down to our core and to our human instincts, that if something is precious, we should take care of it. We should cherish it. We should grow it, right? So that is the path that I want the majority of people to take. Because I've been thinking about death for like years. I've always been fascinated by death since I was a kid, and I went through that phase where I was feeling like very down and doom and gloom. And as I'm working out every day, as I'm trying to learn how to trade, as I'm like going to the gym and starting the capital hungry business and trying to help my friends and family, I kept having these realizations like, what is the real point of all this, right? We're all going to die anyways. What is the real point of all this? And I was already on that doom and gloom side, and I went through a lot of thinking of these various concepts and how humans have gone through this from the start of mankind, and just came to the realization that if you want to live a life that brings you joy, that you can be proud of, a life of fulfillment, where you can look back on the inevitable day when you do die, that you will not have any, as cheesy as it sounds, that you will not have any regrets, that you lived the life we have to the fullest extent in terms of pushing your mind and body to be the best of its ability and to help those ones around you, those loved ones around you, those friends and family that you cherish, where you also cherish their lives. You know what I mean? So that's what I really want to get across with this webinar, is that I really think that if you can understand the psychology behind this, you can use the inevitable fact of death as a motivational and inspirational factor, and really start to understand that this is the biggest thing in all of our existence that should be cherished. That is number one on our list that should be cherished. And you also have to understand, this is very important, and it sucks, okay? Our modern society does not cherish human life at all. If our modern society and the way the system is designed, where 1% of the population controls the decisions, resources, and everything else in line for the 99% of the population, we wouldn't have all of these global issues such as famine, poverty. You wouldn't see shit like child labor, child soldiers, wars. You wouldn't see all this induced death, right? Humans are the only animals on earth, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this one, who kill each other for the sheer no reason of it. Majority of animals that kill will kill to hunt and eat in the cycle of life and in the food chain, or will kill to protect themselves if they're about to get eaten or hunted. You know what I mean? But you will see humans in the pursuit of power, and when you go on this pursuit of power, you're going to corrupt your mind, you're going to corrupt your spirit, you're going to become an extremely corrupt, greedy person. And in the pursuit of power, in the pursuit of profit, in the pursuit of control, the 1% who controls the 99% do not cherish human life at all, and actually exchange human life in essence for their own progress. You get what I'm saying? That's why slavery existed. That's why wars happened. That's why famine exists. That's why these social hierarchies exist. That's why the system is the way it is. The monetary system, the political system, educational system. It's not fair. It's not a utopia. We're actually going into a point of society where it's almost a dystopia. You know what I mean? So you have to understand that the modern society cherishes power, profit, and control more than it cherishes human life. And because of that, what is normalized in our society actually destroys human life, but promotes more power, control, and resources for the rich. Do you understand? Okay? So please understand this. The majority of behavioral patterns in our society, like I've talked about in other webinars, a person has to go through this education system and get prepped to become a worker. Then they have to work this potential job where the majority work a job that they hate. They are stressed out and make minimum means to support their cost of living. Where obviously in the modern world and modern society, human survival is now linked to the dollar, right? How much money you have is how you're going to survive, and potentially the quality of life you're also going to live too, right? The dollar is a huge part of that. You can't deny that, right? So you have these people go through this preset education system and get pushed into becoming a worker, and then you have them become this worker, spend hours and hours a day, the majority of their time through this life gets spent at an occupation they hate, where they're stressed out, hating what they're doing, not developing their skill sets, not developing any further knowledge, not challenging themselves, not pursuing anything greater, to make minimum amounts of money. And then when they finish their workday, they are stressed, they are angry, they feel like shit. And what does society push to you then through all the stimuli? To chase simple pleasures. What do the majority of simple pleasures, like eating like shit, eating fast food, being addicted to various substances like alcohol or other drugs, constantly being on social media and consuming mindless entertainment, what do all these pleasures have in common? They all slowly deteriorate the human life. But they continue to fuel the power and resources and pockets and control of the 1%. So you have to understand, the modern society is designed to exchange the human life of others, in essence, over their lifetimes, to extend the power, profit, and control of the one percenters and the ultra rich who run everything that we are a part of, right? So, as human beings, cherishing human life and cherishing our life as we all come to the unavoidable fact and unavoidable wall of death eventually should be at the top of our list. And when you cherish human life and cherish your time on this earth, that means you would do whatever it takes to live the best life possible through your lens and through what your hopes and dreams are. You would want to look the way you want to look. You want to feel great. You want to be strong. You want to have a lot of knowledge, experience, and mental fortitude. You want to live a life of value and growth because you are cherishing this lifetime on this earth. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, because death is inevitable, life is precious. Because life is precious, we should cherish it. We should nurture our lives. We shouldn't deteriorate them. You shouldn't waste away something so precious. Do you understand what I'm saying? But our modern society pushes people naturally through this systematic programming to waste away something so fucking precious. And people don't realize that the leaders are the politicians, the people in power in corporations, the various bureaucrats, the lobbyists, the people who you think have your best interest in mind actually have it the complete opposite. Because they do not cherish your human life. They would much rather exchange your human life over a period of years until you die to continue to fuel the pockets, control, and power of their families, of their generational control. That's why through civilizations, there's always been a set percent of the population, a smaller percent of the population controlling the majority, abusing and exploiting these concepts related around death. Right? Those one percenters, those people who are abusing and exploiting this, they are cherishing life. They want to live their best life possible, but at the expense of the masses. Do you understand? They don't have to work. They don't have to stress about bills. They don't have to worry about paying for medicine or paying for their cost of living. And in the modern world where survival is linked to the dollar, majority of a human being's stress is linked to money. Majority of a human being's stress is linked to money and linked to death, of losing loved ones, of losing family members, of losing friends. You know what I mean? But the one percenters who exploit the masses, money's not a thing to them. It's all about power and more control. And guess what? Guess what the largest contributing factor to a declination in your health is, to a decline in your health. Guess what the largest contributing factor is? Stress. Stress can make any illness 10 times worse. Stress can make any negative thought 10 times larger and bigger than you ever thought it would be. And it's weighing on you the entire day, week, and month. Right? And all the majority of the masses deal with through the entirety of their life in this modern society and system is stress. And majority of them cannot handle the stress, as the stress is obviously eating away at their life. So then to deal with the stress in the short term, they go towards these dopamine hits and temporary pleasures that only further deteriorates their life but fuels the pockets of the ultra rich. So the main takeaway with this webinar is that, number one, death is inevitable. Number two, when you think about death, you are going to be flooded with the feelings of despair, the feelings of dread, the feelings of sadness, confusion, the feelings of the unknown. But I want you to acknowledge those feelings, accept those feelings, but look to the flip side of and understand the fact that humans die and the fact that our lifetime is only for a set period of time is in essence and exactly what makes human life precious and so rare and something that we should be cherishing and be on the top of our priority list, right? So then I want you to go towards that side, understand that this life is extremely precious and you should cherish it and you should nurture it and understand what it takes to mean to nurture it, right? And then when you go on to that into deeper detail and you understand what it means to nurture it, you shouldn't be fueling your body and eating like shit. You shouldn't be addicted to these various substances just to deal with life. You shouldn't be consuming mindless entertainment and content. You shouldn't be constantly involving yourself in short-term satisfactions. Because you know at the core and logically thinking that if you do that over a consistent period of time, you are wasting this precious, precious life. Does that make sense to everybody? So understand, life in itself and the fact that we die is the rarest thing on earth and has been the rarest, most precious thing since the dawn of man. There's been nothing that human has developed, that they have created, that they have thought of, that is more precious, more rare than life itself, than the time we have on this earth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you understand that side of it, and when you can look to the optimistic side of how precious this life is, of how we should nurture and cherish it, then you should start acting in accordance to that philosophy. You shouldn't be deteriorating your life. You should be wanting to help the ones around you, help your family. You should be wanting to cherish your loved ones and family and give them advice and talk to them and really interact with them. Not just fucking talk and text once in a while. Go see them if you can. Go let them know how you feel about them, that you appreciate them. And you should also do everything you can to bring value to yourself, to live your life to the fullest, because there's nothing more precious than this. Because at the end of the day, we all gotta die. All right? So, I just want you all to use that as potential motivation and inspiration. And I also want you to understand the reality of death. I also want you to understand that you can use this as an inspirational and motivational catalyst. And I also want you to understand that our society is designed that way. When you look at the reality of our society, it's designed to exploit that, right? So, all right, everybody, take care. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the NFP stream.